It began with a story, passed verbally down the generations, about a boy, unnamed, found dead in 1860 beside an old flue on the moors near Ramshaw. At first, it felt like a footnote. A sad one, yes, but not uncommon in a landscape built on hard work and harder lives. But something about it lingered. Maybe it was the word child. No family, no burial stone, no explanation. His death turned out to be more than a forgotten footnote. It was a lens into empire, poverty, and the price paid by a child chasing hope across a foreign land. This is Rails and Revolutions, the history that built us, the forces that shaped us. Where did this young boy come from? Fortunately, en route, he asked directions at Baybridge and gave information in return. He had been living at Blackhill, some 14 miles away from where he was found. I traced his possible routes on old maps. Whichever one he had taken, it was going to involve the steep valleys of the Derwent and crossing the remote, barren, windswept high moors around Baybridge. I checked the weather records from that January in 1860, showing that during that month, England was in the grips of a particularly cold and wet winter. I tried to understand what kind of desperation it takes to climb into these hills during such weather, with nothing but 2 pennies, a crust of bread, and a mother's thimble in your pocket. And that's when the story stopped being distant, because what I found wasn't just one boy's death. It was the edge of a much bigger story about child poverty, Irish migration, and how industry often forgets the very people it relied on. Here, on a storm-tossed morning in 1860, a 12-year-old Irish boy, ragged and weary, lay down beside a stone flue, seeking a moment's warmth. 2 pennies, a half-eaten crust of bread, and a mother's thimble rested in his pocket like fragile talisman against a cruel world. But the flue's hidden crack betrayed him. He breathed in a silent, invisible poison and never woke again. His death was more than a footnote. It was a lens into an empire built on lead, a testament to child poverty and the silent sorrow of Irish migrants chasing hope across a foreign land. Local shepherds, their dogs baying against the wind, discovered a small lifeless form curled against the flue stone that he had tried desperately to get warm from. The boy's face was pale as heather in the frost. His threadbare clothes clung to ribs hollowed by hunger. One farmer gently drew back the sleeve to reveal 2 dirty pennies. Hard-won coins, perhaps earned by a day's labour, now forever lost. They saw the thimble, once a mother's tool by lamplight, cradled in his frozen hand. In that moment, the moors fell silent. No name, no family marker, just a child alone, passed into oblivion. And yet that silence spoke volumes. Across Weardale, lead smelting was both livelihood and death. Imagine the smelt mill's hearths roaring like iron-tongued beasts. Stacks of galena ore fed the flames, each chunk hissing as it released arsenic-lead vapours into the night air. To protect nearby villages, engineers built mile-long stone flues, arched tunnels that whispered poison uphill. to towering chimneys. From a distance, these flues look like benign ribbons hugging the hillside. But for anyone seeking shelter against driving rain or biting cold, they were death traps. A single inhalation of those fumes could paralyze lungs, sear membranes, and extinguish life with no warning. In 1842, Parliament's Child Labour Commission warned smithers and travellers must pass beneath the smelt flues at peril of their own lives. Yet still, roofs rose, chimneys soared, and the flues remained unguarded. What drove a 12-year-old onto these moors? His mother had died weeks before, illness and destitution claiming her as surely as the famine claimed her homeland. With no guardian's hand to guide him, the boy stole out at dawn, clutching a crust of bread and 2 pennies, his entire fortune. He carried also his mother's silver thimble, the last gift she ever gave him. Step by step he crossed boggy heather, his soles torn by rough stones, until he reached Baybridge. There he paused briefly to talk to locals. It is not known exactly what he said. Likely he was asking for the location of the mines from which he sought work. From this brief interaction, it was discovered that his mother had recently died and he had left home to seek employment. So why stop when the wind could have led him to possible refuge at the mill? Likely this very mill here at the bottom of the hill, Ramshaw. Maybe the wind grew colder, maybe his legs gave out, or maybe, just maybe, he saw the flue and thought, a little warmth, just for now, being completely unaware of the danger he was putting himself in. In 1861, more than 800,000 Irish-born souls called England home, many drawn from the promise of work after the Great Famine's devastation. Yet here they found new hardships, squalid tenements, long hours underground, and hatred whispered in factory corridors. Laws banned the youngest children from the worst jobs, but poverty always found a loophole. Orphans and migrants, with no advocates, were forced to serve as trappers in mines, a job that meant sitting alone in the dark, opening and closing ventilation doors deep underground as wagons passed. It was cold, claustrophobic, and dangerously lonely. Others hauled ore across slippery slopes. Their tiny lungs inhaled dust and gas. Their small frames buckled under heavy loads. Others found work at the smelt mills. Official records claim these children were kept to outside work, feeding fires, carrying wood, sorting ore. But regional accounts and industrial histories complicate that picture. At mills like Ramshaw and Jeffreys, it's long been said that children were sent inside the flues, like this one, once or twice a year, to recover the condensed fume. Valuable deposits of lead and silver left clinging to the inner walls. The fires would be put out, the flues allowed to cool, and then boys, often no older than 10, would be sent crawling through these dark stone corridors with scrapers and sacks. It was filthy, suffocating work. Lead dust coated every surface, embedding in skin and clothes, working into lungs. The health risks were enormous. Lead poisoning caused nerve damage, kidney failure, seizures, and death. Even the slightest contact with flue soot could cause festering sores and permanent injury. By the mid-19th century, new child labour laws began to emerge, intended to keep children away from the most dangerous tasks. Parliamentary inspectors declared that children were no longer to be used in flue cleaning or inside smelting areas. And yet, the stories continued. Testimonies from workers and local traditions across the lead districts still describe boys sent into flues, long after such practices were supposedly banned. The law had changed, but enforcement was sporadic, and poverty left few choices for desperate families. One contemporary historian remarked that the task of flue scraping may well have claimed more than its share of unrecorded casualties. These were not just jobs, they were sentences passed on the poor, the orphaned, and the forgotten, exploited in silence beneath the chimneys of progress. The boy of Ramshaw was scarcely unique. He was one among thousands whose lives were gambled against lead and smoke in an age that prized progress over humanity. Months later, hunched over a battered schoolroom desk in Hunstanworth, Master Robert Close put quill to parchment. His poem opens. Speak of him as a child, not again as a man. Let tears fall softly where the silent grasses stand. He wrote of a village that gathered at the grave of an unknown child and begged time to cradle his name in memory's gentle hand. Close transformed a nameless body into a symbol of collective grief, ensuring that the boy's final rest would not be swallowed by moss and wind. Today, the flue is crumbled. The mill building a hollow shell. The tall chimney still stares across the moors, a silent sentinel to lives sacrificed for lead. In Hunstanworth's churchyard, weather-worn headstones crowd the grass. But none mark the boy's resting place. He lies amongst strangers, name lost to parish records. Yet every stone seems to whisper his story. The anonymous child who braved miles of bleak upland for a chance at survival. The boy's fate was not an industrial accident, but a human one. His death reveals a wider story of an empire fueled by poison, built on the backs of the poorest, and edged with the sorrow of a displaced people. We remember him now, his 2 pennies, his mother's thimble, so that no child's life becomes just another footnote in the march of progress. If you believe these stories matter, the quiet ones, the forgotten ones, the ones held in rust, grit, and silence, help keep them alive. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have a topic you'd like us to look into, please get in touch. The story of this region isn't over. It's still being written, one voice, one place, one memory at a time.